Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Flow. It's been a little over a week. We were pretty damn busy, so here we are. I'm Kevin Lowers.
I'm Ben Knapp.
And we are gonna possibly maybe do 2 episodes this week. Maybe.
I mean, we work when the people need. Okay, so as they need, we provide. So you get hungry, you need a little spoon feeding of a little Coach K and a little BK. We're gonna give it to you. All right, so want no more.
Sometimes the podcast goes on the back burner while we feed the people.
It's important.
It's very important.
Because of the people that has provided us the opportunity to create the podcast. So it's always people first. It's always we have to satiate our people as our butter for our bread, I guess. I got to have butter on my bread.
That's the best part, the butter.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Full fat, of course.
I thought you were pretty gluten-free now these days.
Yeah, but I've been finding some amazing gluten-free breads that are actually kind of, staying away from even different types of flour and stuff. So it's been a journey, but man, I tell you what, it's just, I'm lean, and so it's like there's so much information out there about, whether to carb or to not carb or high fat, mid fat, low fat. But sometimes you just after a while you're supposed to be able to trust how you feel. And damn, man, it's like carbs make me feel good, bro. Like you feel strong, you feel good. So it's like, do I say, I'll eat gluten as long as I'm hitting my performance goals. It's like I think that just comes down to like, what do you want?
Yeah, it's hard because, you go to that. I experimented a lot just trying out different diets, different ways to eat. And I did that, the high-fat, low-carb kind of keto. And my brain felt like it was a rocket ship.
Yeah.
I was just like firing off on all cylinders all day, every day. I almost felt like a robot. Mm-hmm. But my performance was definitely down, when I would go to lift weights. And then I got through this German volume training program. I did about 4 weeks on this. I finished it up like 2 weeks ago. And by like that 3rd, 4th week, man, if I wasn't eating an insane amount of carbs, I was just eating a lot of rice, I could not keep up with it. I could just feel my body breaking down. I'd be so tired. So it's interesting how the alignment of your diet has to be with your activity, and if you're someone that doesn't train that hard, that's all cognitive, then yeah, probably a high-fat diet's going to work very well for you. Mm-hmm. But, with the way we train, the way we move all day, even just lifting up weights to
set them down for people.
Yeah, for people. So it adds up, and I've definitely noticed that as well. I like the high fat, but it's a lot more work in my opinion too. I don't know. Eating just rice is it's an easy, cheap additive for calories. I just heard what's that? Elliot Hulls, you know him? Yeah. He was
down
doing
in Florida.
Yeah, he was doing a rant. I love that guy. He's awesome. But he was doing a rant, and it was funny because it's exactly how I eat. I've kind of showed you my Costco frugality shopping list, which is just amazing. But he's talking about how you can gain, like put on weight, without breaking your dial, without breaking your bank. And he basically said, buy big bags of rice, learn to cook rice, add some beans, some black beans, whatever kind of beans, and then add some protein, some eggs, some ground beef, whatever, and just make massive tubs of that and just eat that. And it's hilarious because that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 3 months, and I feel good, man. I'm sure I could optimize it, but at this point in my life, it's amazing how you can still eat pretty good and feel pretty good and not spend $700 a week on your food.
I know we have a tendency to just like we're doing now, we have general chit chat, and we kind of end up blending into the topic or whatever. But it's hard, I'm hard pressed right now not to mention like where we're trying to go with this, because it is it's very interesting. I had reasons over the weekend to contemplate, and again, I have a friend that's a little bit ill, and he's very young, and he's almost suffering from some medical conditions that seem like they're not supposed to come until you're more advanced in age. But I do, just going right back to what you said, it's like I feel better when I love the taste of a gluten-filled beer. I love how a big old sandwich makes me feel. I mean, it's hard to eat hamburger without a bun on it. It just doesn't make any sense, So, I do. So if I'm going to have a deadlift session, there's nothing better than an instant bag of rice and some pasta to make you feel like you're killing it, like you're stronger. You feel like you're recovering a little bit better. So, but then maybe I have flatulence, or maybe I'm burping, or it's like so. Which way do you go with it? Like, do I want to eat, absolutely no gluten, absolutely nothing higher than 50 on the glycemic rating as far as sugar, and try to extend my life for as absolutely long as I can? Or do I want to, like, chew nails in my life and, like, conquer everything that I've set out to do, and maybe I live less? Like, I don't, it's interesting. I don't know what to do with it.
It's like the duality of someone that's trying to get healthy, There's always that, like, anytime I eat something that's just completely indulgent, for anyone in the area, like J. Alexander's carrot cake, have you had their carrot cake from J. Alexander's?
Very rich. I have had their chocolate cake, though.
Have you had their carrot cake?
It's too, I think I've tried it. It's too rich for me.
Dude, it's the greatest dessert ever made, man.
I think their chocolate cake
their chocolate cake's insane.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm like, my fiance works there, so she'll bring it home every once in a while, and it's just incredible. And every time I'm eating it, I always have this weird little idea in my head. I'm like, first of all, I think I would make a really good fat person when I'm eating that. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But you kind of get in your brain, you're like, is it worth never enjoying this to live longer and, kind of prepare yourself to feel good later on in life, to, delay this gratification, with the idea that in 10 years from now, I'm going to reward myself by having great health, and you can kind of see where people start to justify it, where it's just like, whatever, you get one life, you start kind of doing that for yourself. I think it's a bit of a trap. But I think every once in a while, moderation's key, and that's something that I've had to work at hard, because I found that abstinence is like the only way that I can do well with things. So if I'm going to eat pizza, there's no eating one slice and stopping.
Maybe we need to create a study on how people that never indulge, and they fight cravings, and they fight desires, or even especially socially. Like, again, if you're hanging out with your friends and everybody orders a pizza, are you just going to sit there and not eat and be a model of, it's like, there's a trade-off. It's like retirement. Like, pinch your pennies, go nowhere, do nothing, save your money for this notion that when you get there, which is usually an age, or like a certain age that you retire or you decide to stop working or whatever, that then you're going to live in abundance. So do I eat carrot cake then? It's like, so when is it okay? Like, what I guess, to the point of what we're talking about, what does it mean to have enough? When do you know enough? When have you lived enough? When have you eaten enough? Or when have you sacrificed enough? How do you come to those conclusions? How do you draw that conclusion? Even with our clients, it's like, I tell people, I'm like, look, if you're gonna actually eat pizza, and if you're gonna actually have a bagel and cream cheese, do yourself a favor and enjoy it. Like, don't sit there and mutilate yourself while you're eating it. That's like double-edged. You're cutting yourself twice. So if you're gonna do it, you may as well enjoy it. So that's there is no universal understanding of what is enough knowledge, what is enough, what's enough years. How many years is it that that is a life well lived? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know that you can put it into any context like that. I think it's kind of endless to an extent. I don't know really that time leads you to wisdom that is enough. I think it's your desire to expose yourself to continue to learn, and then maybe even the understanding that you'll never know everything. You'll never even get close. You won't even get one toe underneath the water as far as everything there is to know in this world. So kind of just, I guess, coming to an understanding that you can pick maybe one or two things and get really good at them, and then maybe when you get to a level of proficiency and mastery, then maybe that's enough. I don't know. That's like a impossibly. This is like an unanswerable question almost.
But a very popular question.
Yeah.
Because people are dealing with it in many different ways.
Yeah.
Again, you can look at the knowledge scale. You can look at, ignorance is bliss. There are some people that get to a certain place in their life and then nothing changes and they just ride that out for the next 50 years. So hot dogs, Budweisers, and the occasional fist fight on the weekends, and they don't want to know any different, and therefore they don't know anything different. And it's just the way. It's just the way that they choose to go. But we've talked about it on here and outside of this podcast that sometimes ignorance is extremely bliss. Contemplation can be very difficult. Psychoanalysis can be very difficult. Trying to create a gauge for, again, like how many years am I going to live, or how much money do I need to retire, or how much knowledge will satiate my desire to learn. When is it enough? What is enough?
It's I don't know. It's a tough question to answer. I think if you kind of put it into the light of doing the best by your fellow man, then it almost never ends. I think that idea of ignorance is bliss is very good on the selfish level. For your own selfish desire to not stress over the fact that you don't know anything, and like learning it's very difficult, and just kind of shoving that off to the side and saying I'm good, is much easier than contemplating and continuing to try to expand your mind. But I think from a global perspective, if you're trying to be the best person to help, that ripple effect out into the world, you have to continue to try to learn and become better. Because I think the individual, like the power to create a utopia stands within the individual. If every individual actively tried to make their life better every single solitary day, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, fill in the blanks, then we could create this utopia, But you just have too many people with that ignorance is bliss mentality that are super closed-minded, and that they battle new ideas. So you're constantly clashing heads,
When we at here at the Inflow Wellness Academy, when we, it's like I've said this to many clients, like we have, think of our athletes when they come in over the summer. It's a short window. You only have those for a short time. So we write their programs and we reference what we have to have the end in mind. In other words, we have today, let's say we have 90 days. We need to get you to this place in 90 days. So we use the end and scale back to the day, right? Does that sound pretty logical?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's the way it needs to be in life, too. Like I read that book, Mitch Albom, Tuesdays with Maury. Just a wonderful book and a true story. And I remember in the book, Maury said to Mitch, he had said, if you want to learn how to live, first get comfortable with death. Okay? So, and what an amazingly simple and powerful way to look at it. So maybe that's our problem with our inability, again, to allow our cup to feel full every single day. With knowledge comes ignorance, right? Everything that you learn, you realize how little you know. And so maybe we do need to start at the end and accept the fact that time is borrowed. Accept the fact that you'll never, if you're seeking knowledge, you'll never learn enough. If you're seeking money, you'll never obtain enough. And if you're seeking neither of it, then you'll want forever. Maybe if we just started with that, maybe if we started with what it means to live well, what it means to have deep understanding, maybe then we can create better scales for.
Yeah, you can create a plan to try to achieve it, and then, not like you'll be able to weather the storm if it does come, because I always wonder, I'm by no means like financially I don't have an abundance in my finances, And I say to myself, if I did, my lifestyle would change a little bit. I'd probably do some more stuff. I'd travel more. It'd be nice to go do some more seminars and certifications. We were just talking about that before the podcast. I'd probably, maybe spend a little bit more money on food and just a little less stress. But I don't know. I've never been in that position. So, if that position came, like I don't know what because I've planned that, would I execute on that? Would that just come down to discipline, or would I not be ready for the storm? If someone put $1 million in my bank account, would I just lose my mind at 24 and just get kind of crazy and get caught up in it? I think I would do pretty good because, again, I think I've thought about that stuff. I've contemplated, how I'm gonna deal with my financial abundance when it eventually comes, because I think it will. It just takes a lot of time and hard work and dedication, right?
Well, yeah, but that's the there scenario when I get there.
Yeah.
Right? And then some people say, well, there's only the here. So maybe some people might say, you already have enough. You already have all you'll ever need. And so that's just a matter of shape-shifting, just shape-shifting your rational, thinking. In other words, if you have $1 million, you'll want 2. If you have 2 million, you want 4. So I don't know. I think it just comes back to understanding, just the understanding of regardless of how well you live, death can come earlier than planned. Regardless of how much you save, maybe you live to be 120 and you still run out of money.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get laid off of a job you thought you were going to take into retirement, and that just fucks up the whole plan. So I don't know. It's like, do we almost like prepare for catastrophe every single day and then just try to learn something, try to love something, try to live for something in 24-hour increments, and then if we're fortunate enough and the eyes wake up the next day, celebrate? I don't know. Celebrate.
Yeah, I think you should set parameters for what you want your life to become, but it doesn't mean that you are just living your life waiting for that. You just kind of set it, and then you kind of peel back the layers to what you have to do on a day-to-day basis to achieve that, And then again, I think with the needs aspect, I think my needs are taken care of, but I think part of life, we're pleasure monkeys. There's definitely wants. You definitely have wants. I want things, otherwise I wouldn't show up to work every day, because I am good. I can pay my bills. I can feed my family. I have shelter. I have friends that love me. I love my friend. I could just stop right now to an extent.
You kind of could.
But
think of Socrates.
Yeah.
He decided to die before he got old and sick and nasty.
Yeah. But again, I think you're spot on with, I was actually on Sunday morning. I was speaking with some of our clients about this. It's almost delusional to think that you can't die early, or someone that you love can't die early, or someone that you love can't get in a car accident and get severely injured and life-altering, problems are all of a sudden in your life instantaneously. That's delusional to think that won't happen. So preparation for that. Again, this kind of all falls into the Stoic ideas of kind of planning for the worst and preparing yourself for the worst. So if it does come, you can not become another person that just ruins their life too as a rebound from this bad event happening. You can weather the storm, you can get past it, and you can continue to be a functioning human in this existence. So I think it's incredibly important to kind of just sit down with yourself and say, there's going to be a lot of suffering. I actually had a mentor of mine. He's my buddy's dad. He kind of gave me a job right after I had my son, and he owns a factory, a manufacturing company. And the first day, he sat me down and was just explaining to me. He told me he was going to fire me in a year if I didn't find a new job, because he knew that there's no way I could never make more than $12 an hour doing what I was doing there. And he didn't want to see me get trapped, which was cool. And then he told me, it's anytime you think you're doing good, you're going to get knocked down. He's like, I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how good of a job you find. I don't care how good your relationship is. Things are always going to come up, Right when you think you're finally up on your money, your water heater's going to blow out, Fill in the blank. And it's kind of been spot on true, ever since he said it to me. It's every time I've gotten too high on my pedestal, I've been a big old tidal wave has come and knocked me off of it. So now it's just a matter of knowing that that's more probable than not. So now whenever things are going good, I'm like looking around like, all right, what's going to fuck me up next?
So we essentially have to reverse our learning curve, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So we have to go to the end of whatever that is, whatever the end is, which is death, and then just scale back how vulnerable we are. But with vulnerability should create some excitement. It should create some excitement for the days and excitements for life. And I remember last week I brought my daughter and her friend up to the gym last week, and they just her friend wanted to see the gym and sit in the sauna or whatever. Plug. Infrared sauna. And so on the way in, she was saying, she's like, oh, math class was so easy today. We had a substitute, and he just let us play on our phones. And, of course, my panties get all bunched up, and I'm just like, see, this is what's wrong. And they didn't understand. They said, all right, so I'm going to reframe it for you. I'm going to explain to you guys. I said, at your age, you can learn more in like a month than somebody at my age could learn in a year. I go, I think you think adults are smart, but it's only because we've lived longer that we've learned maybe 20 more things than you actually know, and we just continue to tell you about them all the time. So we seem very smart. We seem like we really got our shit together, but what you don't realize is I really haven't learned anything in like 6 months, right? So I said, you need to be in school every day during the times of your life when you can actually absorb, retain, and apply certain levels of knowledge, which is why at your age, at 13 years old, you should probably go to school every day,
And there's that established rule of authority from like parent to child.
Mm-hmm.
That's just been ingrained forever, dependent on, the kid's dependent on the parent. So that naturally I think that there's this authority aspect to it. So the intelligence level kind of sways because of that. So my 4-year-old seems like he's smarter than me sometimes. It just makes me think about things.
Well, on a scale, he probably is. He's probably will learn more in a day. Again, more in a day than you'll learn in a month. But it's I just tell the kids, I'm like, I just don't want you to waste these little opportunities, to really pick up some quality skills while you're there, because it's going to be a short little blip of time that you'll have these opportunities. And it seems like the opportunities, again, at my age, it's like I don't really fear for it anymore because of the internal work that I've done. I want to be more accepting of the ebbs and flows of life, but the fact that how desirable am I going to be if I had to go, say, apply for new jobs? Do they really want to hire a 50-year-old guy with, limitations and a bad back and then, the idea of me getting sick and them having to pay for it and, through insurance or whatever. So you're a little vulnerable even by age, on what my capacity is. So it just keeps bringing me back to the point of, well, how much is enough? What do you need? What will you need to be satisfied? What will you need? What's the minimum that you'll need to where you'll be satisfied if you wake up another day? Or if you don't wake up another day, will you be satisfied? So I assume that answer is going to come in time. I assume that if I'm fortunate enough to get 50, I think I use the word fortunate loosely, but if I live another 50 more years, will I then be content? Will I be content with the amount of knowledge that I've collected, with the amount of friendships that have matured, and with the amount of experiences that I've obtained? Will I be satisfied at that point, or will I ask for one more year? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the goal, if you're going to kind of bring it back to the internal work, is to always be there, but to not be there at the same time, if that makes sense. You don't want to become complacent. You don't want to become content with your life. You always want to improve, That's what's kind of the most invigorating aspect of life, is you can manipulate it. You can manipulate the world around you by choosing to get better every day. So I think that you'll never kind of stop, but at the same time, while you're working to make yourself better every day and enjoying every day and being grateful for every year that you get to live, you should, I think, have that conversation where it's like it could all end, and am I okay with it all ending? And, kind of being like, yeah, I am, but I don't want it to. I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be okay with dying but not wanting to die. That's kind of the hardest spot to get to, because then you just continue to get better and learn. And Otherwise, I doubt you're going to get to like 70 and be like, I'm good. Like, you don't seem like the kind of guy that's going to do it.
Are you going to say that's? I ask that question all the time. I'm like, okay, so fill in the blank. What is the age when you wake up and say, you know what?
I'm done.
At any point from this moment forward, when it's my time, I'm fine. I'm completely fine with it. Like, what is the age? Because I've never heard anybody say, no, stop crying. He lived long enough.
Yeah.
I have yet to hear that. I've been to funerals. We've all been to funerals, and it's nothing but boo-hoos and why God why. And I'm like, he was 88. Like, this is not divine. Like I told my buddy the other day, I said, just like I loved my dad's old Delta 88, an old Oldsmobile. I loved it. But after he rebuilt the carburetor 5 times, it was probably ready to just call it a life. Like, Dad, let's go get another Oldsmobile. Like, we're done here. It's like it had a life expectancy. The chassis, the struts, the shocks, the wiring, it has an expectancy, just like our life.
I think a lot of that's just the people on the outside that are left after the person passes that aren't prepared.
So it wasn't enough for them.
Yeah, it's not enough for them.
Right.
I think that's a lot of what it is. It's just that attachment. Like, that's what life has become, man. There's just so much attachment to so many things, and obviously it's a little more meaningful to be attached to a person in a relationship than it is to like an object. I think we can all agree there. But at the same time, you're creating delusion by thinking that your father at 88 isn't going to die soon. Especially when they start getting ill and sick, and then their like quality of life is really diminished. At a certain point, you should be wanting them to go. Because you don't know what happens after this. I was speaking to my cousin. I had him over. We were hanging out, and we had a couple glasses of wine, and we got into this deep conversation about that. It's like you gotta let these people go, because they're probably better off for it. And then we don't know what happens after. Nobody does. That's the most interesting and terrifying part, is that anybody that says they know what happens after this, I hope I'm not, shitting on anybody's beliefs right now, but like you can believe in what you want, but you don't know. Nobody does. So you can either fear it or embrace it. There's 2 different choices you have there. And I think it's more fun to embrace it and to be hopeful that there's something after this. And if there is, like the joke that we were having when we were talking was like, people probably die, and then they're just kind of in this universal one, just looking down in this state of extreme bliss, no attachment, no pain, no suffering, just all joy and euphoria, and looking down at us fucking crying at their funeral, and they're up there like, why are you crying?
Dude, if I could just tell them what it is.
Yeah, and again, like I'm just talking out of my ass here, but I think that's a fun way to look at it. It's a fun idea to think that as soon as your last breath happens, you just explode into a state of DMT multicolored universal one, and you just kind of expand into where everybody resides, their souls reside. I don't know, you can play it in so many different lights, but it's way more fun to think that than the atheist perspective where you rot in the ground.
We have a client in here, and she was mentioning her grandma, and I think her grandma's like in her 80s or whatever, and she very joyfully told her the other week, like, she had officially hit like the $1 million mark, like in her retirement portfolio, and her first reaction was like, well, Graham, like, you're 80, whatever she was, like, why don't you try spending some of it? Like, why don't you actually try like living a little before you go or whatever? And that to me is scary too. It's like, do you just blow it all? You just blow it all now, and in the off chance that tomorrow's not coming? I don't know.
Then you live to 100 and you're working at Walmart.
Right. Well, think about that movie, The Green Mile. You seen The Green Mile?
It's been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the very end of the movie, he was the old man telling the story, and he had said he was like 200 years old. And the person was like, well, that, they thought that was awesome. And he goes, awesome, huh? He's like, well, I've outlived, and however many he said, I've outlived 5 wives. I've outlived, 10 kids. And he goes, this is a prison to me. This is a prison to me that all the people that I continue to love and love deeply, they keep going, and I'm left here. And I'm left here by myself, and then I'm forced to start over. So in that movie, we think we all want forever, but he got it, and it was a curse. It was a prison. So, but then if somebody gets ill, think of and it's very sad. Think of all the children in like children's hospitals, that they're ill and they're stricken with suffering. But do they know it? Like, is it terrible?
I think it's less terrible. I mean, I say that very loosely. And if you're in the minds of a child, it's very well less terrible than the minds of an adult because they're less aware. I'm reading this book all about pain, and that's kind of the argument for why kids can, if they smash their head and they're screaming, you can just like distract them with like a little bit of ice cream and they forget about it. They don't have that awareness, and they don't have all these different like reasons to continue to talk about and think about the pain. So their coping abilities are way better than ours because they can distract themselves very easily. So although they're probably feeling the same amount of pain that I would if I smashed my head, I don't get distracted that easily anymore. So I'll just be thinking about it every couple seconds when I feel
that heartbeat,
and it's
on the
probably
noggin.
I would imagine it's no different with illness. Kids, their capacity to be creative and fun and in the moment is way higher than that of an adult. So they forget about these things instead of contemplating them, and maybe not even like just thinking about them as an adult, but adults like identify with them. You like an adult that develops an illness or a pain or an injury or a poor lifestyle, like begins to identify with it. You identify with anxiety. You are anxiety now. You don't just suffer from anxiety every once in a while. No, you have anxiety, like it's in you. You know what I mean? And then you bond with other people over the fact that you both have anxiety. And it's this trait that you start to tell people that you have, and you use it to get out of situations that are tough. And I've watched this all unravel with a lot of different people, man, and it's interesting. And then you see a kid, and it's just hilarious. Like, my son will just smash his head, like, so hard. like unbelievably hard. And, like, he'll just immediately, obviously, especially if, like, my reaction's like, he'll look at me, and then you just see his whole face shift, and he's screaming. And then I'll just, like, make a joke, and, like, he'll, like, laugh about it. And then he'll forget about it. And then maybe he'll, like, touch it and, like, remember and be like, oh, it hurts. And then I'll, like, distract him again. And then all of a sudden he'll be better, But as an adult, we just take that shit and we just keep making it worse.
It's kind of like it goes back to the original when we talk about, what does it mean to live in flow? I don't think we touched on it when we discussed, the different ideas of what a flow state is, but wouldn't it also be, proclaiming flow by having the understanding and the acceptance of, time and knowledge and money being borrowed, all those things that we think that we need more of and we feel that we have coming to us, that wouldn't be living in flow. Living in flow is, each day living as close to being in bliss as possible and caring not for really what the only thing that's guaranteed in life, and that's that it won't be around forever. And it's awesome. I feel awesome because I've been challenged a couple of times with like death and illness, even within like the last year of my life. And I don't. It's hard to say. It's like, again, the minute you try to articulate something, it's slightly off. But I haven't been as worried, and I haven't been as depressed about these people getting ill and these people facing their mortality, and it's almost in a weird way I've almost been sort of excited. Maybe I'm excited for me because I feel like my grasp on the whole thing is maturing. I feel like my understanding and my ability to again to rationalize how irrational life is and how imbalanced it can be and how different it is for everybody. And so it's weird. I'm thankful that I wouldn't completely lose it, to lose people that are close to me. Because I do want to believe that there's a bigger plan, that there's something more waiting, that this is too awesome and too great of a life in a world with the potential that's out there for it to just be over. I don't know. So maybe that's me creating defense. Maybe that's me creating an altered reality that helps me deal better with it. But should I feel bad for that?
I don't think so. I think, it's kind of muddy water to say you're excited about the people dying around you.
Well, I hope I didn't say that exactly.
No. I'm messing with you. But yeah, no, it's funny, back to like my son, he actually asked me the other day, he'll randomly bring up dying. Just he's 4 years old. He'll just randomly bring it up. And he doesn't really understand it, but he kind of does. Like he understands that like what death is, but doesn't really get it. And he speaks about it in this very like open manner. And he was asking me, he was like kind of grilling me. We were just sitting there eating, and he asked me. He said something about like if he died, and I just try to explain to him, that like I just say like nobody really knows what happens after you die, and I was just like I'd like to think something much better happens, but nobody really knows, and I was like, and it's kind of fun to think about, and I was like, it's nothing to be afraid of. I was like, it happens to everybody, eventually everybody dies, it's nothing to be morbid or depressed about. It's just a absolute in life, one of the few, one of the almost none. Is that you will eventually die. I mean, at least right now, they might get to the point where they can keep people alive forever. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's possibly.
But then he started talking about if we died, like like what if we died, and I had to explain to him. I'm like, like if I died, like mom would take care of you. You have all of my friends around you. You have this huge community, and I was like, and I'll always be there. You just won't be able to see and touch me physically anymore. I was like, but I'll always be there. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to comfort your kid. And then he brought up like, what if both of us died? Like both me and Caitlin died. And I had to explain to him about all these other loved ones in his life and how loved he is and how there's always going to be people there to take care of him. And again, that we wouldn't be there physically and you wouldn't be able to see us and touch us anymore, but we would be there with you. And he started kind of getting sad. And, like he almost started crying about it. And it was just interesting to see like this 4-year-old. And in his head, as I was, kind of trying to explain this in the nicest possible way to a 4-year-old without freaking him out, like he was kind of thinking in his own head, I could tell, like, what if they were gone, And he was getting sad, and I kept trying to reassure him, it's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Like, you're going to do fine without us eventually, if that ever comes to that. We've created this network, this tribe of people that will always take care of you. And then again, we'll always be there. I can't really say that for sure, but I'd like to think so, that I can kind of be there guiding, and hopefully God willing, as far as when's enough, I don't think I've had enough yet, because I don't think I haven't really set my son up to win yet. I haven't really got the opportunity. I haven't had enough time with him, with myself, with this world to, know that if I left it today that he would be prepared, and I think that might be a big indicator and factor for me. Once you kind of bring another life into the world, it's your responsibility to make sure that they can grow up to become a functioning adult and dominate the world. And if I can't do that, then
it's funny. That's funny because before my daughter, my scale was probably, and I've probably forgotten by now, but because a lot has changed since then. But I think my scale was wealth and possessions, before I had my daughter. And now to your point, I feel like that's my most important job right now is not if, but when I'm gone, that she'll use it again as another learning opportunity, as a teachable moment, how we love to do those. So people think I'm slightly morbid for having these conversations with my daughter. And, I only know what I know. We talked about that on the last podcast, like my opinion on things. And, my opinions, they're not the holy grail of how to live. They're just something that it's been manufactured through the experiences that I've had in my life and the things I've seen and the things that I wished I've seen, and maybe some things I wished I hadn't seen. But yeah, so I'm doing the best I can, but I think that's what I'm just trying to instill in her is first of all, how to find me. How to, and the ability to, again, just be, to not be irrational with what happens. Because, again, like that old Delta 88, my body just can't go forever. And I just don't know that I want to put in the work, to keep it around forever. So it's an extremely wide topic. I mean, you can look at it from a very wide lens, which might actually be claustrophobic. Or you can look at it from a very small lens. And again, just trying to be useful in our lives and trying to make a mark in the small little universe that we occupy and probably nurturing our relationships a little bit more for the probability that it's it's going to come in not always the way that you've planned it.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting past the original delusional thoughts that it won't happen. And I think it's very comforting to just to kind of get in that mode. Like, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. But then you've never established the groundwork for if it does. So that's the person. I mean, and I think everybody can relate to the person that went through something tough and just has never bounced back. Yeah. There was no preparation there that was done. And I think, choosing to be incredibly, like, I think I'm a pretty spiritual guy, but I identify with pragmatism probably more than anything. I think being pragmatic and practical about situations is the most effective way to navigate this water, or this world rather. It's muddy water every way you look at it. No matter how good you think your life is, you're going to run into these situations that are very challenging. And if your world seems perfect and you haven't prepared for the chaos, like, good luck when that storm comes, man, because it's just going to rip your house off, and you might never recover from it. So just kind of getting past that and having that conversation, and maybe even simplifying it, and just being a little bit, I guess, morbid about it. Like, you hear people go like, "Oh, everyone's going to die," and that's kind of like that. What is it, like nihilism? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where you just kind of like, you're just anti everything because it's all going to come to an end. Everyone's going to die anyway. Fuck the world. It's like, that's not very productive either. But there is, I guess, a little bit of value to the idea, because it is all going to end eventually. But I think people, a very common phrase, people get so caught up in the fear of death that they forget to live, right? I think that's a pretty common expression that everybody's heard. But, I don't think anybody really extrapolates it and thinks about it and tries to actively pursue the other side of it, and actively tries to live every day and not really worry about death and just understand that it's inevitable and you never know when it's going to happen. So waking up, every day, with your head above ground, it's a good day, man. Like I try to journal every day, and I do a little bit of 3 things you're grateful for, and almost every day it's like another day. I can breathe. My head's above water. I'm not in the ground yet. So it's another opportunity to try to forward that march, and obviously, like I said earlier, teach my son, because again, to your point, when I had my son so young that I never even thought about this stuff until I had him. I never had like an idea of death that didn't encompass my son. Like I was 18 when I had him, and I was partying, I was drinking, I was I wasn't thinking about my immortality. I wasn't thinking about that. I was invincible. I could never die at that age, And so since having my son, I don't like making money and being successful is just as simple as trying to be a role model that my son can look up to. And I think, these habits that we're talking about on here that I'm trying to create is all been motivated out of making sure that my son will hopefully follow in my footsteps. And obviously we all know leading by example is the best way to do that. So, creating wealth, creating good relationships, creating an unbreakable discipline have been things that I've actively tried to pursue every day. And I'm not that great at them all yet, but it's better by the day.
I have been challenged, and I'm sure you have as well. I have been challenged with the question, well, if it's all going to end, then why does any of it matter? And that's a great question. And I think that's just something each person has to decide for themselves. See, right now, I'm at a place, and especially because of the people that I'm surrounded by, where it feels like every time I learn something or read a new book, it's almost like it shifts my worldview, and it's almost like I have not an adjusted perspective, but it's almost a new one. It's almost a new perspective. So I'm like, everything becomes a little bigger and a little bit more valuable to me. And so I think I'm not mad at the people who crave nothing. I'm not mad at all. I'm not mad at contentment. I'm not mad at being where you're at and just letting the rest come as it may. But for me, I no longer have that choice. I no longer have the choice of whether or not I'm going to thirst for knowledge, whether or not I'm going to strive to become a better version of myself. And obviously, the better version is the interpretation of the people that I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by. I don't apologize for it. I don't apologize for contemplation. I don't apologize for psychoanalysis, because it's like the more knowledge you obtain, the weaker and the dumber I become. And almost like and it's almost like the life gets lighter. It gets lighter because I'm like, it's so big. It's so huge. It's so unknown. It's so, like I had my brother-in-law, popped in on me from Florida. I had no idea it was coming over the weekend. And we were talking about like the 16-8 fasting. And he's like, well, I found a guy that's got it down to 22-2 fasting, fast 22 hours a day, only eat 2 hours a day. And here's why, and so I think a part of me wanted to challenge that. We talked earlier about performance and eating more carbs. But to me, I was just like, well, man, I'm glad you're still poking your nose around a little bit. I'm glad you're still trying to find a way. I'm glad you're still seeking. I'm glad that you're finding something that's interesting to you. Because how many, damn near 50-year-old men are evaluating whether or not they should be fasting? And so I was thankful. I was thankful for that conversation, and I was thankful for his search, and it wouldn't have been for me to in any way try to discredit it. Because again, I don't know. Maybe 22 hours a day fasting is the way, but we don't know it because it has nothing to do with our society, because that's usually probably just surrounded by poverty. But again, maybe that is the way.
Maybe that guy just does really good with it. He feels great. Back to your gauge is how you feel.
Yeah.
Stop being so, getting your britches in a bunch over every different diet. Like, you feel good, you feel good. Stop thinking about it. Just do it.
How often do you use that phrase, britches?
I don't know, never.
I was going to say, you've never used that with me before, but britches is actually a word that I grew up with. You better get your britches on, boy.
How old are you? Like the Green Mile? You're like 200 fucking years old.
I'm 207 years old. I still look this good.
It's an interesting question, man. I think
britches? Whether we should.
What kind of britches are you wearing?
Hey, I like your britches. Those Under Armour britches
sometimes
you got over.
I get sometimes when we're doing this podcast, man, I get these realizations that you're gonna die way before me, and you're this old man, and like I need to try to fit in, so people. I want to try to fit in with your age group and, what you guys are doing. So I use words like britches. That's what
Well, we do. From. Like I said, in my age group, we have dinner at like 2 in the afternoon because we have shuffleboard at 11.
Bingo at 4. We're in bed by 6.
Absolutely.
Every night.
Yep. My teeth are perfect because they're not mine.
That sounds like a pretty good life, getting to bed at 6 o'clock.
I don't know if it even ties into what we're talking about, because I think we're officially at the point of distraction, which is also a really great thing, because again, it's all about life and enjoyment and having a great conversation and not really giving a shit where it leads. That's also why we don't listen to these podcasts after we record them. I don't want to know how bad
I don't even want to hear my own voice.
No. But I did ask. Oh shit! Now I'm going to forget the point. But I think it had something to do with the britches. I have no idea where I was going with that.
You would forget, man.
But, the great thing about, my age is, like, when you get, like, the Alzheimer's, you have no idea you have the Alzheimer's. And I can say the same freaking joke every day, and it's still funny to me. By the way, I have a joke for you.
What's the joke?
And if there are any Jewish listeners, I'm not trying to be offensive. I just thought it was funny, okay? So, there's obviously a Jewish father and a Jewish son. So the son asked the father to borrow $50. And the father goes, $40? What do you need $30 for? I thought that, hey, when you have Alzheimer's,
that's funny without Alzheimer's.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I can tell you that one again tomorrow, and I'm going to say, hey, man, did you hear the one about the...
And I'll laugh.
Just go for it.
I'll laugh.
And I'll say, hey, you like my new britches?
Ben was a really good guy, so I'll laugh at his jokes every day.
I don't want him to know that he just told me that yesterday.
Yeah. But that question that you brought up is, I think, like, to the point of distraction and the fun. Like, I think if you kind of think of life as a game, then it's worth playing, Yeah. And when you're trying to play a game, if you're at all competitive, you want to get better. And I think competing is more to do with yourself. Like, you compete with yourself. You try to improve yourself to try to make a better version every day. And then that's where you find satisfaction and you find not contentment. You find just joy, happiness. I think it lies within that constant growth factor that you pursue every day. And then again, as you learn, you realize how much you don't know. But at the same time, it becomes that much more easy to manipulate the world around you, because you can get into these conversations. I'll never forget when I first started listening to podcasts and reading books, where I would find myself in these situations And again, I kind of read and I don't expect to remember everything, but then these situations arise and then like you read something and it interjects perfect into this conversation, right? So you start to see the value of reading and listening and thinking and contemplating your own ideas and creating them. So I started to, be able to actually sit in a room with adults and actually speak and have value.
You didn't have to sit at the little table.
No, they upgraded me. It was like all of a sudden one Thanksgiving they didn't send me to the basement with the kids. They're like, he's actually pretty thoughtful. Let's keep him up here.
I'm still in the basement.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. My family, some of my family's not so open minded. They probably would keep me in the basement now more than ever.
While they play cribbage upstairs.
Yeah, well, they just argue about politics and shit and yell at each other. No, but I was gonna bring up. Have you ever heard of like the Alan Watts simulation theory? Yeah. That's the most interesting. So I'll just explain it for listeners here before we run out of time. But the idea is, obviously, right now in 2018, it's pretty inevitable that we're going to be able to create artificial realities that are going to be indistinguishable from the reality that we live in and exist in now. So you get, you put on these goggles, whatever the technology is that puts you there, but you can go live a life inside of this life and not even know, essentially. So his logic was like, if you created this technology, the first thing you would do, you go do the game and you would live, and you would have everything. You would just be this blissful pleasure monkey. You'd live like 70, 80 years and then, die, come out of the game, and you'd probably be like, wow, that was fun, but like it was just kind of like there was no yin and yang, there was no conflict to bring, the unknown, to bring the fun of the unknown. So that next time you go simulate, maybe you add in one unknown. So maybe you're still rich and good looking, but like you don't have the hot wife yet, and you have to go out and like find her, and then like you live that life for 70 years and you come out and you're like, man, that was invigorating. Like the unknown is invigorating. So then you add in more variable. Maybe you have to find a good job, but you're still a good looking guy. Like you still have some genetic lottery. And then you eventually get to this point where you go, I'm just gonna simulate a life that's everybody has an equal opportunity. It's a free for all, and I have no idea I'm in the simulation, so I can't do anything about it. And his argument was like, potentially that's what we're in,
So I was gonna say, isn't that kind of conceptually what's already going on?
But that was his argument. So he's like, there's a good opportunity and a good chance that we die and we just wake up from a simulation and go like, damn, son, like that was awesome. Like that time I started to figure it out, like. I come out of this and I'm like, man, at 23, I was reading books. Like I was trying to be a productive person in this society. I'm going back. I want to do it again. And you just keep getting better. You get funneled back in.
Have you heard how much time do we got?
We got like 10 minutes.
Have you heard of the book Many Lives, Many Masters?
No.
Okay. It's really kind of cool. And again, these have been very transformational books for me in very small parts. But the book was supposedly based on a true story. I don't want to say for certain, but it was a therapist who had a client. I guess she was successful, beautiful, and very young, but just suffering from everyday life. And so they were going back to like the parents. When you process things, in other words, it's things that have happened in your past that have you've kind of built a personality around. So after doing like deep hypnotherapy and a lot of talk therapy, they can't find anything wrong with this woman's life. Before they started hypnotherapy. So they tried the processing, but she really lived kind of a good life. And so they just couldn't figure it out. So it started getting into the part of the practice which he wasn't really familiar with. So he actually had asked, I'd like to do some hypnotherapy on you. Would you be interested in it? So she agreed. And so he was recording the sessions. And supposedly these sessions are available for all of us to like listen to in real accounts. Well, through deep hypnotherapy, she started recalling past lives. And so now he, obviously being a skeptic, because it's science-based, and so he, but chronologically, she could recall scenes and pottery and clothing so he, and giving timelines. Now, she would remember nothing from the hypnotherapy, and she had asked to not be told what they talked about, but he actually was doing like research on the things that she was talking about, and he said everything was matching up perfectly. Like even the type of clothing, she could say the date and the years and everything like that, and people, and he could go back and actually say, oh my gosh, like she's not lying. So it supposedly completely transformed his entire practice because they concluded that she had lived many, many lives, and they did do processing. So remember, processing is about going back, and let's say you were maybe like abused as a child. The minute you can recall the incident, the process then happens. Like it's almost a form of healing when you can identify where the blockage is. But they had to go into previous lives. So after they started identifying that there was previous lives, they accepted the fact that she has lived multiple lives. Then she started living better again. So she had processed, but it was like, it's a pretty good read. It's a pretty good book that almost talks about exactly what you're talking about. Like, we have lived other lives. We are just being recreated, and it is about new experience. And so, man, it's like if we could build some of that understanding into maybe schools and into maybe literature and into maybe some of these books on how to live, it's like it seems like it could execute and completely eliminate guilt and anxiety and this acceptance for the gift of experience. And that's all this is about. So it's like if you went back and did that virtual world. I love the movie Groundhog Day. I absolutely love the movie. It's because I think about that. If you woke, he tried it. He tried it. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, Bill Murray, man, it's awesome. He basically, it's Groundhog Day. So every day he wakes up. He's an asshole. He's an asshole TV guy, but TV personality, newscaster. But he dies, and every day he wakes up, he's reliving the same day, and it's Groundhog Day. And it's the same day, same setting, same people, same thing. So he basically, he finally recognizes it that he's living the same day over and over, and he's just a jerk. And he's overeating food. He's going after women. He's just saying whatever he wants to people and being a complete jerk. And he wakes up and he's doing it over, and he's doing it over. He's an even bigger jerk. And it's just not getting him anywhere. He's waking up every day. Now, he still has his memories from the day before, but now he's just worn out and he's just bored. And so then he starts doing something. He starts taking piano lessons. There was a kid that fell out of the tree, so he remembered that. So now he made sure he got to that spot every day, and he caught him. He was catching the kid that otherwise would have gotten hurt. There's old ladies that had a blowout tire or whatever. So then he anticipated seeing it, and he had a jack ready, and he jacked their car up and changed their tire. And then he learned how to play the piano, and he learned how to dance, and he became sweet, and he became lovable. And now all of a sudden it started changing the people around him. It started changing his scenery, but he would keep waking up. But there was a woman that he fell in love with, of course, And he wanted each day he had to keep recreating that. He had to keep courting her, and it was all over, and he kept doing it. And he got to the point where she was really, truly falling in love with him, and he was really, truly loving being a good person and loving helping and everything like that. And then finally at the end of the movie, it was the next day. And so then he got to take all of that knowledge with him, and I'm assuming he went on to live an even better life. So I guess what would you do if it was your Groundhog Day? How would you live? How would you do it? And so, I had asked you earlier, then what's the point? Well, maybe that is the point. Maybe that is the point, to gain as much experience as possible. So then in the next life we live, it can be even greater. And maybe that's why society continues to grow. Maybe that's why society continues to advance. Maybe that's why our technology continues to advance. Maybe that's why consciousness continues to advance. Maybe that's why self-help continues to advance. Therapy, yoga, meditation, rationalizing drug use, understanding people's hurts and goals and wants better. Maybe we all have lived before, and maybe that's why society is getting better, and society is getting more loving, and it is getting worth living. Why would you want to live a second life if you lived back in the 1100s? Who would fucking want to do that over again?
Yeah, I don't want to get beheaded for treason.
Yeah, for having a thought.
Yeah.
So maybe that's maybe the point is just the experience and just the knowledge. And then maybe what we'll get to do with all that stuff next time. Yeah,
and I think there's a component of making the experience as good as you can for others around you too. Yeah. So that's kind of where the individualism comes in, where you empower the individual and it empowers the collective. So I definitely think it's fun, man. It's fun when you keep improving, like anything. There's that when it comes to mastery and learning things, there's those stages of learning where it's very frustrating and annoying because you don't even understand, like, say, like the software. If you're learning, like, say, like, let's say video editing, you don't understand how to do the software, and you have all these ideas, but you can't do them because you don't understand the software. But then you start to develop an understanding for the software, and then it gets that much more fun because you can actually start to create things, and then you become incredibly proficient, and then you can create things faster, and then you can build things out of nothing, and then it's insanely fulfilling, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's like kind of that process of learning anything. And life is no different. You know, you start off, you don't really know anything, and you hope that these people around you help guide you, and then you get older and you start developing original thought and opinions on things, and you hopefully continue to surround yourself with people that also have good thoughts and opinions and make you a better person and bring you up and motivate you and inspire you. And you just kind of keep that up, and you find happiness there. You know, it's very easy to identify depression. You can see someone's life when they're not around the right people, when they're not, you know, engaged in the right habits, when they're not pursuing the right, you know, thing for their life, and they hate it. So it's fun when you decide to take initiative and make yourself great. And then it's not so fun when you play victim and you sulk and self-deprecate yourself left and right. So
I am thankful for the platform by which we get to accept life's challenges. You know, again, exercise and nutrition and mindful living is a wonderful way to not only to build a life for myself, but to be of service to others. And I'm really looking forward to the experiences that I'm gaining every day in this life. And I will look forward and I will crave being able to come back with these experiences and do it again and be a part of the next run of greatness. So I hope that's what it is. I feel good when I think about it like that. And yeah, man, I'm glad we're here and I'm glad we're doing this. And you know what? I really don't want to have it all figured out. I don't want to know it all. Yeah. I'm just enjoying the time that I have, and I am thankful for being a little bit older because I do have a much better comfort on how time is coming to an end. You know, it is because I'm at that age now where you do have to just try to create a little bit of a value system and try to leave something behind. So this is we've created a wonderful team here. We've created a wonderful energy here, and a wonderful opportunity for us to all grow individually and help create and help people better create their paths for their definition of success. So.
Yeah, man. I think that's a great spot to end it. Hopefully you don't die anytime soon so we can continue to grow it.
Well, we'll leave these podcasts behind.
So how about you stop the gluten so you can live longer, bro?
I'm good, man.
Attach to life. Don't ever let it go. No. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you found some of this information useful. Again, we're just a bunch of mutts trying to figure out the world, and maybe we said something that makes you think a little bit deeper about life. And if that's the case, then we did our job, and we'll see you guys next time. Later. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition. We'll guide you through supplementation. We'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.